Hey, this is Eli, just with a short video as we prepare for the third gathering of our Ecosystem Silviculture course. Before our first gathering, we asked everyone to review basic silviculture content as well as ecological classification systems. We started the series with a gathering inside an 820-acre clearcut, 15 years old, not too far from Grand Rapids. At that site and the others we visited that day, we explored some ideas related to disturbance aspects, size and intensity. We looked at a shelter wood, we looked at a small patch cut on family forest lands, and we talked a little bit about how these different kinds of disturbances affected forest development, growth, plant community, trajectories, and so on. Then we went inside, we reviewed some core silviculture concepts. We heard from Marcella Windmuller-Campione and John Almendinger. We harped on some important aspects of silviculture content. We really focused on, as an example, the three parts of a silvicultural system. I hope these are all very familiar to you now. We talked about how we use different silvicultural systems to allocate growing space in different ways to achieve our desired future conditions. And we also talked, led by John Almendinger, we talked a little bit about how foresters and ecologists see the world differently. This is really pretty important as we try to implement ecosystem-based silviculture out on our lands. The next day, which was October 12th, this was our second gathering, we went outside and we focused on field silvicultural applications. So we focused on how these things are being used. These ideas that we had talked about before are being used. We saw great examples of management that's strongly tied to native plant communities. You can see a picture of that here. We also saw some examples, at least one example, that really wasn't at all. And we talked about the very different costs, much more expensive to manage in ways like this. This was the spruce plantation that we saw at the beginning of the day. We, again, really saw some pretty big differences in cost and ecological outcomes and productivity and a whole variety of things. Then we spent the afternoon on Aitkin County lands. We heard from a couple of Aitkin County Land Department foresters. They're using a similar approach in some ways, but very different in others. What we heard about from them was really how they developed a deep understanding of the ecological trajectory of their stands, and they were very opportunistic. They monitored the stands carefully, looked for opportunities to capture the seedling development that they viewed as an important desired future condition. They wanted oak regen, and when they saw an opportunity to do it, they went in and quickly implemented a treatment. This is pretty different from the blend and mixed wood approach, but another good example of ecosystem-based silviculture grounded in a strong understanding of how that plant community works. So that brings us to our next session. We're going to gather on November 14th in Grand Rapids. So what should you expect there? Well, this is going to start with a morning inside. We're going to hear some lectures and conversations about Minnesota's glacial history, different landforms, how we can recognize those across the landscape, how they relate to plant communities and soil development. We're going to hear about and talk about the effects of forest management on soil productivity and soil conditions. And we're going to focus in a little bit on how to access good soils information from your desk or in the field. We'll hear from Mike Walczynski with NRCS about tools like Web Soil Survey, the Soil Web mobile app, which we hope folks will be able to install on whatever devices you use in the field. That Soil Web can give us real-time, location-based soils information. And these things together will give us a good understanding of relationships between soils and forest management, and also good tools that we can use to access that information and then kind of ground truth it using field assessment techniques. So it should be a good session. That's about it. I look forward to seeing you November 14th. As always, look for the readings and other content on the course website. And if you have any questions, drop us a line anytime. Thanks.